Welcome back to Shock and Schlock. I'm your host, Rishiolis, and today is part 2 of the 12 part Bad Ben review series. That, of course, means we are covering the prequel to Bad Ben today. It's odd that the second film in a trilogy is the prequel, but here we are. The prequel is simply called Steelmanville Road, or Bad Ben 2 Steelmanville Road, but Steelmanville Road is like the intended title for this. Now, Steelmanville Road released in, I believe, I want to say 2018, 2017. So, the first came out 2016, the second one came out 2017. Thought they were a bit close together because Bad Ben, the first one, came out at the tail end of 2016. I believe it was in October. This came out early 2017, which is Steelmanville Road. Now, the difference between this and the first film that you're going to notice immediately is that Tom Riley is not in this one until the very end because this is a prequel. Now, I'm going to talk about why that's a good thing and why that's a bad thing in a minute. It's mostly a bad thing. This is not one of my favorites of the series, but it is not my least favorite either. It's pretty much just below the first Bad Ben here. Nothing like egregiously terrible about it or anything. I actually think this is a rather good film. It's just not, when there's a film series that's 12 entries, I think some of the later ones are rather good. Particularly, I like Part 6, Part 7, Part 9, Part 10. Those are going to be my favorites. So, as we continue on, we're going to get better and better, though, with these two movies after this one, too. I know I'm not talking about the one that we're reviewing today, but Part 3 and Part 4 are both better than the first two, in my opinion. So we'll get there. But for right now, Part 2 is about the Harris family, which is Rachel and her husband Matt. They move into Steelmanville Road, which of course is the home from Bad Ben. And they begin to encounter increasingly aggressive paranormal entities and encounters, So, to start out, this film primarily serves as, as I said, a prequel, but at the same time, it does provide some explanation into what Ben from the first film is, who this family was, because they are mentioned in the first Bad Ben film, briefly. So we're given that backstory, makes you appreciate the first film more. So as a first-time viewer of the first Bad Ben film, I think after watching this and then going back and rewatching the first Bad Ben, you will appreciate the first film more. But that doesn't make this film more exciting. This film is much more generic than the first one due to Tom Riley not being there, but I will say it's very creepy at times. It's significantly scarier than the first film, I would say. The goings-ons are much more violent and in your face. There's more jump scares. There's more lingering creepy moments. The main reason that I don't enjoy this film as much as the first, despite like it being creepier, is that Tom Riley is not there. Now, this being a prequel, that's obviously understandable. But I just sort of wish maybe this story was kind of just told a little bit in the first one rather than like a full movie devoted to it. Because I think Rachel and Tom are fine characters. They're not perfect. I think their acting can be a bit stilted. But Rachel, particularly towards the end, gets, I would say, better as she starts becoming more and more thrown into this scenario. I do think the acting does get a little bit better. I think they were both trying to, like, the actors that were playing Rachel and Tom are trying to play this as very much like a straight face, like how does family interact with them type of way. And I do think they come off a bit wooden because of this on occasion. But some of this also may come from Nigel Block's performance as Tom Riley in the first one being so like refreshing. I would say this one just feels much more generic. It feels like a Paranormal Activity movie, albeit a better one in my opinion. Things that I really enjoy about this film, particularly, are the continuation of the camera, like the way that the film is shot from the first film. So you get the motion tracking cameras, and it makes it feel much more grounded in a lot of ways, especially compared to future entries, which I, as previously stated, do enjoy a lot more. But for the original trilogy, where it's sort of trying to take a more grounded approach, this does work really well. The motion tracker, like camera status going from red to green, will always be creepy. And luckily, it is something that's continued through the series. It's never something that really wore out for me either. Looking back on these, and yeah, this is. It's a hard film to review, knowing how good these get eventually, or not even eventually. The third film is by far the best of the first three, and part four is even better than that, or maybe not quite, but a lot of these do get better as they go on. Nigel kind of starts experimenting with different ideas across these, but these first three, particularly the first two, though, take a much more grounded approach than we will see later on in the series. The second one, I would say, is the most grounded film out of them. I think it's one of the scariest films in the series, but I also think it's one of the most cookie cutter, I would say. I'm not saying it's a bad film. As I previously mentioned, I did really enjoy this. If you enjoyed the first film, you should definitely watch this. It'll give you a better appreciation of that. This is by no means a film that I would say you have to endure. It's very enjoyable. This may even be one that if you watch this with like your friends that didn't watch the first one, they'll all enjoy. I think this film, the only reason that it really doesn't stand out is because it comes after Bad Bin, the first one. And it just makes it feel slightly more unexceptional. I know this film is fairly panned, even compared to a lot of the series going forward. These films not necessarily are like top tier acting or anything, but this is probably in my rank. I believe I had this in the bottom 4 or bottom 3 of the series out of 12. Yeah, it is in the bottom 4. But stick with it. If you watch this one and you enjoyed it again, trust me, the third, fourth are much better. The fifth one, decent, but we'll get to those eventually. This isn't one of the duds of the series. I just think this is definitely like a very middling entry in the series. I don't think it's as good as the first one, but I don't think it's bad. This will probably be the film with the shortest review in the series as well, just because of that. But a couple of things I want to touch on before I leave here is that things that I did appreciate. We expanded the lore, and the lore is important going forward, especially in part 3. So this film did have some things that were essential to that part 3 story and why part 3 is so good when we get there. Learning more about Ben, the house, everything kind of adds to your appreciation of the first film. Certainly did mine. It's an essential part of the franchise, but not the most exciting, I would say. But definitely worth a watch still. If you're planning on watching these series, it's not a painful watch at all. It's still relatively short, just over 90 minutes. It's not one of the longer entries in the series, which we will get to with Pandemic down the line. That's luckily some entries away. Just a spoiler alert, I hate Pandemic with a passion. Luckily, that is part 8, so we have some videos before then. And part 9 immediately turns into one of the better entries in the series, so we'll get there eventually, though. But, yeah, once again, if you want to order Bad Bin, it is available on Nigel Box website for these. Comes in this Blu-ray box set. I know it's a DVD case, but these sets are big. They are. I didn't want to open and let the disc fly out here, but comes. You get all the films here. Yeah, I believe they're 80 plus shipping. But you can, there's a Bad Bin Roku channel where you can stream these as well. I believe the first couple are on Amazon Prime. I could be wrong. I know the first one is for sure. But yeah, watch these in any way you can. Highly recommend them. Part 2, not super exciting, but it definitely promises what is to come. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. As always, been your host, Herschel Gillis, signing off for today. Zero thoughts, zero editing, zero brain cells, and zero planning. I'll see you guys later this week with part 3 of the Bad Bin series, which I'm very excited about because it is one of my favorite entries in the series, at least in the top 5. And that is actually saying something because these get really good. So, yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching.